Today we're gonna hit a workout, talk about each one of our preps for Special Forces, and then what we would do differently knowing what we now know. Okay.
So we're just gonna go 3 minutes light.
The ramp. What is the ramp method warming up?
So raising the heart rate, activating the muscles you're about to hit, or whatever particular muscle groups you're about to hit, and then mobilize. So you're gonna mobilize or go through the range of motions that you're gonna be hitting for that day, and then potentiate. So this is a lot different than, say, when I was gonna start training to go in, I didn't really know what a warm-up was.
Do you think you're more capable now, or you're more capable back then when you were like 20?
So back then, I think my recovery was faster, but as far as like raw strength, and as far as longevity is considered, I'd say I'm much more capable now.
Yeah. Like if you had to go conduct an operation, carry it back for multiple days, you'd be able to do it better now?
Yeah, I think my durability's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
I think back in the day, a lot of the stuff that I was getting through was just from just grit, you know. It's like just strength of mind, overcoming, you know, one foot in front of the other, bearing down. 25 hands on top, and then 25 on the bottom, so just pull apart. Try not to engage the traps too much. Try to activate the rear delts. Biggest issues I had, even before I joined the military, was shoulders, and then shins.
You had shin splints?
I had shin splints, yeah, dude. I had shin splints really bad when I first.
How'd you get over them?
I didn't. I used to scrape them with a butter knife. That used to be the trick. Like, yeah. Put lotion on them and then just scrape out all the.
You don't get shin splints today, do you?
No, I don't get shin splints anymore. I think that's just from all the leg work that I've done, the lower leg work, all the
conditioning,
dorsiflexion stuff, yeah, all the durability exercises that we focus on the low legs. You know, doing actual tib work, you know, like tib raises and stuff has helped a lot too.
Yeah.
Throughout the year. So now I actually have like a tib muscle. Back then it was just bone, you know. Yeah. I think that probably helps a bunch.
But that's like the #1 thing I tell guys is, how can I avoid shin splints? Or guys will be running 15 miles a week and then they'll get shin splints because they ramped up the volume so quick, and they're like, oh, how can I get over my shin splints? I'm like, #1, reduce the mileage and gradually build up to it, because you have to get your body conditioned to the impact before you can actually continue to progress. So that's like one of the biggest things you see is guys that, I say this all the time, but guys will jump on, you know, they'll be committed to going Special Forces. They'll find a 90-day prep plan that's 20 to 30 miles a week. They'll jump straight into it. They'll have injuries, and then they deal with that throughout their prep, instead of having a kind of a build-up process over a period of time, build up that impact resistance, and then jump into it when you can withstand the volume. There's so many mistakes that I look back on, and like my, you know, prep up for SF, even my time in SF, like the way I trained, that yeah. I made tons of mistakes and I paid the price for it. A lot of the stuff I say now is talking to my 18-year-old self and trying to get them to avoid the same mistakes that I made at that point. Oh, like AFT style, dude.
Yeah. So you're not short stroking it. A lot of guys have that issue. And I think that's why the Army did away with the normal push-up, because now there's no guesswork with if the individual went all the way down or not. And so, coming through.
This is what I need to work on right here.
The thoracic rotation.
Oh yeah, dude, it's terrible.
I still want to continuously, I want to focus the activation on the primary muscle movements, but I also want to think about, you know, the secondary muscles that I'm going to be using for that lift. I think a lot of guys miss the mark on that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the big reasons why I like to include a full body warm up every day is, even for the lower body movements, you're still going through range of motion, you're still getting the mobility work, you're still getting the activation, which is going to drive up the stability, drive up durability. Mine was after I had sustained injuries while I was on the team. I mean, completely objectively speaking, many of the injuries, including, you know, bulging disc, my L5-S1, lower back issues, were stemmed from a instability in my hips. So that kind of created downstream effects and led to me having a bunch of injuries that I wholeheartedly believe were completely avoidable.
Yeah, I'd say warm-ups really started becoming a part of my routine probably a little bit after coming to the teams, because obviously when you first get to the team, it's like you're getting to work, you know, and then fitness isn't necessarily the main goal, you know. It's not like the primary thing. It's kind of one of those things that you're like expected to just do on your own time. A lot of people think, oh, you show up to a team, you're going to be PTing all the time, it's going to be sick. It's like, no, you got hit times, and then you got to fit your PT in where you get it in. Fully understanding why we're doing the things we're doing, it didn't really set in until later on, and it's kind of like you, where it was like, oh, my back's already kind of messed up, my shoulders are, you know, torn, and now it's kind of like I have to do these things or I'm not going to be capable anymore. And then you really start to understand, oh, that's why we do those things, or I should have been doing them more. So I'd say probably a little bit post-team time, more realistically.
There's a common progression with like a lot of Green Berets, and that is that during, you know, you train up, you're really focused on your run times, your ruck times for selection, you're focused on your ability to get through the Q course. So all of this stuff is really big endurance focus. And a lot of guys, as soon as they get to a team, they're like, oh, I can relax from that stuff and I can finally put some muscle on. And when I got to a team, I kind of fell into that. Like, oh, now I'm on a team finally, like I can, you know, bulk up and put a little weight on. And then I neglected the things that, you know, kept me durable and kept me performing.
Yeah. I would say a lot of people forget too, when they get to SF, they forget that they're still in the Army.
Yeah.
You know, I think that gets forgotten pretty quickly. It's like, dude, you still have to take a PT test. I mean, mind you, most people do, some people don't, but I mean, in reality, yeah, you still have to take a PT test. You're still in the Army, and guess what people care about the most? You know what Sergeant Majors care about? Your PT test. Some of the top performers, they never look like the bodybuilders, you know what I mean?
You get your onesies, twosies, but it's not
you get your onesies. You get those genetic freaks, you know, the guys that are, you know, 6'4" and they were born jacked with abs. But I mean, the best performers I've ever seen, I used to have a buddy who used to tell me all the time, he's like, you either look really in shape or you got huge nuts, dude. He's like, so it's one of the two, but you can't have both. The coolest things is that unassuming looking people who can outperform almost everybody. I mean, you look at most like CAG guys, right? You would never guess those guys were in CAG. They're just very unassuming guys, you know, but those guys can ruck, they can run, they still got a good balance of strength, you know, they can still carry and pull and push, so, but yeah. All right.
I agree.
So I'm just gonna do sets of 5. So we're gonna light warm up.
What's up?
He said we look like robots. All right, dude, come on.
All right, there we go.
There we go. Robot, B-boot.
I think anytime we hit record on the camera, I just like immediately like. What do you do with them vinaigrette?
That's good, man.
Don't sit down like that.
I'm gonna bench.
Okay.
Huh? I'm gonna bench first, right?
All right, bench first, then we'll touch on it.
Initially started out just helping you develop all the tracking systems and build out a lot of the stuff for the backside, and then I was already kind of coaching at Texas A&M, the strength and conditioning, helping with that in the mornings, just volunteering my time. And so I already kind of had an interest in the strength and conditioning stuff. So you offered me the opportunity to start coaching one-on-one. So just all around, just, you know, general life coaching, strength and conditioning, and, you know, just being there for guys that fucking just need a mentor to help them get through the process. So the guys get hurt in the bench, and it was a mistake that I made for a long time, was overextension of the shoulder. So instead of keeping that scap lock to the back, they'll extend out of that pocket, and that instability of the shoulder, that's where you see most of your injuries for guys benching. So it's really important that you try to keep that locked.
Like guys dropping it and turning around at the bottom,
and
full
turning.
Because if you're coming down and you're immediately bouncing off your chest and hitting that turnaround, you're putting a lot more force on it than just 225.
You guys are making fun of the way I'm setting up, but there's actually a technique to make sure that you're getting in the hole. With every lift, we want to have that positional accuracy, right? Because positional accuracy is going to ensure that we're protecting ourselves, right? There's no bad lifts, there's only bad lifters, right? So if we're not in a good body position, then we're compromising, raising our chances of getting injured. So arms over the bar, make sure that your bar is even on both sides. I like to put my hands where I feel comfortable with spacing. Some people like to measure the length of the collarbones, multiply it by 2 from the center point of the bar, and measure the distance and that's where they do their grip. I don't know how accurate that is, but from here, extend your legs out as far as they'll go naturally without having to really pull them out. And then pull yourself under the bar, right? So now you can see that my legs are loaded, right? You can make small adjustments here. And then I want to make sure that my eyes are level with the bar. And so that gives me a good clean push off. Pushing out, locking my scaps in, pressing. Yeah, I think the biggest thing to realize is that not everything's going to be leg centric when you go to selection. So you're gonna have to be, for example, team week, right? So you're in team week. It's not going to be just carrying the ruck and walking around the woods with your team. Like, you're going to have to push things, you're going to have to pull things, you're going to have to carry things. So
especially the low carry.
There's a lot of upper body that goes into that, and so if you're not conditioned or your body's not used to that, or you don't even have the strength in the upper body, then you're not going to be very successful. If you're just one-sided, like you're saying, your legs are super jacked and your upper body is super weak. So you definitely have to strike a balance. I'm not saying upper body has to be the number one thing you focus on. Definitely you need to be a little more concerned about your legs, but
you don't need to neglect it.
One
of the biggest reasons people fail at Special Forces selection is becoming a safety violation in team week because they were dropping something on the low carries, or they couldn't carry the weight during a high carry. Like, you're carrying a shit ton of weight, especially like during down pilot and during movements like that. And if you fall, or the cadre thinks you're gonna fall, they will give you, 1-2 warnings, and the third time you're out, because you are a safety violation. And if that falls, it could legitimately seriously injure somebody. So strength is a big component to SFAS, more so than many other courses inside the military. Many other courses in the military, you can get away with just carrying a ruck and just doing calisthenics, but selection, where you're going to be required to move that heavy weight for hours on end for those 4 days at team week, is absolutely crucial. What did your train up for SFAS look like?
So initially, when I first started training, it was like super running focused. So I ran almost every day, and I did a lot of variation. So I would do a lot of like hill sprints initially when I started out, and then I would progress into like longer runs, and eventually I was running probably 7 to 14 miles a day, somewhere around there. Yeah, and then maybe once or twice a week doing hill sprints. But I used to do these like really stupid workouts. I would do like pyramids, or I would just like walk in the gym. I'm like, I'm gonna do 1 through 10 burpees, and then like 20 sit-ups. I'm gonna do that from 1 to 10 on the burpees, and then do 20 sit-ups in between every set of burpees. And I'm gonna do that just to start out my workout. And then I'd be like, and then I'm gonna go do some power cleans. And I'm gonna do like 10 sets of 10 on the power cleans. None of it was tracked. It was all just kind of, where am I sore? Where am I fresh? All right, I haven't hit that in a while, so I'm gonna hit that. And everything was just kind of endurance based. It's definitely changed a lot through the years compared to what it used to be.
And for the guys that just heard that and think, oh my gosh, I have to go run 7 to 14 miles a day and I have to do burpee bladders and stuff like that, like, what would you do differently if you were to prep now to go through selection?
Now I would track everything. That would be number one. So I think the most important thing is to track what you're doing, and then actually have a plan of what you're doing, because that was a big problem. Was, you don't know when was the last time you hit a certain body part, or what your distance on your last run was. You don't know what your last timed run was. So tracking it, actually having the plan, and then just better food consumption and recovery, I think would be a big one, because I ate, but I didn't really know anything about macros. I didn't know anything about hydration. I didn't know any of that stuff. I just kind of just went with how I felt. It was all like gut stuff. So I would be more systematic in my approach.
And you think you get better results from it?
I would have been healthier at the end of it, versus having shin splints, having torn shoulders, having issues with my neck. Those kinds of things would have been much more limited than if I would have just, planned it out and done the proper progressions.
I think that kind of goes back to like the main point of like, what is the most important thing of making progress? Training consistently. Like if someone trains consistently, they eat well, they sleep decently, like chances are you're going to make progress. But to do it in a manner that is not imposing injuries, that is continuing to see progress over the long term, that doesn't have those imbalances that are developed, having a plan is going to be the thing that you want to do 100% of the time. I was kind of the opposite of you. I came from a strength background, so I grew up playing football, basketball, baseball, had a very heavily strength-focused background, and then went into an environment where I knew I was going to have to, get my run times down, increase my endurance and things like that. And I think I was running 10 miles a week when I went to selection.
Yeah.
But I just had a lot of strength, and because of the athletic background, I had a lot of durability. And I got through it, but looking back, had I had a greater endurance capacity, it would have made everything easier. Would have, limited the potential for those injuries that took place. So there's a lot of people who are just going to be successful because they have the drive to push themselves to the edge no matter what. Like, there are people who will be successful at selection no matter what their prep looks like. But there's another larger portion of the population that if they go in there with a suboptimal prep, because maybe they don't have an extensive training background, or maybe they don't have great genetics, like, they won't be able to carry the weight, they won't be able to do it, they maybe will become a heat casualty or fall out during it. So hearing this and saying like, oh, it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you do something, for most people is not the right answer, because random workouts lead to random results, and if we're doing something specific for SFAS, you need to get specific results.
Probably a big cohort out there, like online especially, like in this space, and like guys getting ready for special operations. You got like a lot of old timies out there that'll tell people like, you don't need that shit. You're like, what are you doing buying these programs, doing all these train ups and all that? And it's like, yeah, but it's a tool at your disposal, right? Like if I brought you a cell phone in 1970 and told you you could use it, you're just gonna say, no, I don't need that fucking cell phone because fuck it, right? No, I'd use it. But regardless, I think the big thing that I'll tell guys when it comes to all the information that's out there now and all the prep programs, all that stuff, is now you're going up against guys that have access to these things, right? So yeah, you can go out there, you can grab pieces of different plans, you can put it together, you can do it all yourself, you might be successful, but understand that there's gonna be a large number of guys that are gonna be in that same selection class with you that went and actually invested in themselves and spent the money to get the knowledge, to get the mentoring, get the coaching to set them up for success. And those guys are probably gonna outperform you more than likely, So I think for all those old timers out there that are telling these kids like, don't do the strength and conditioning, you don't need that shit, it's all bullshit. Well, it wasn't a tool for you back in the day, but it's a tool that they can use, so why wouldn't they use it? It doesn't make any sense. You the guy that stopped doing the workouts when the cadre weren't looking? Were you the guy that would go balls out? Or are you just weak as shit?
I was very competitive. I would like go into a ruck with a strategy. So I started out with my little strategy, and then I would get to the walking portion of my strategy, and then people would like pass me. And it got to the point where I was basically like, hell no, dude. And then just like started sending it. So I would say like I went into the events with a strategy, and then threw the strategy out the window when guys started passing me, and my competitiveness kicked in, so I just ended up going balls to the wall. I think there is, like, if you take 100 SFAS candidates, there's going to be a handful of those SFAS candidates that are going to be successful no matter what their prep looks like, because they're fit enough to do it, they have probably an athletic background, they have solid training history, and then they just have a shit ton of drive to go out there and do it. And a lot of the dudes you meet, like CJ and I think we're just like that. Like, no, there was nothing that was just gonna make us quit, and we made it through because of it. But I think there's also, like I said, a larger portion of the population of those candidates that are kind of on that bubble.
Selection's not like an insurmountable task. I think it gets like built up in people's head that it's like this impossible thing to do. The reality is it's not that crazy. It's a doable thing.
Yeah.
Lots of people have done it in the past. So yes, if you have drive, you can get through selection. with just sheer grit, sheer drive alone. But that's not necessarily what you want, because you want to be able to have longevity in that career. Because selection is just one piece of the entire puzzle. It is just the key that opens the door to get into the course, that gets you on the team, that gets you into the long-term career, that then when you retire at 40, or whenever you started your military career, somewhere between 40 and 50, and you finally get out, you know, that you still have the ability to function and be able to do the things that you enjoy. The message that we're trying to send is that, yes, you can get through selection if you just have the sheer determination and grit to push through and not quit. You're probably going to be, you know, 80% there, and you have to have a little bit of wits to be able to get through the land nav and to be able to work as a team player. But if you're showing up fit and you won't quit, that's 80%. But what we really want is to educate guys now at the very beginning, so they have the tools going forward of how to sustain themselves long term. Because we don't need guys just to get through selection and then, you know, that's it. No, we need guys to go through selection, go to teams healthy, deploy healthy, and get out healthy. And I think that's what's most important.
All right, what do we got next, dude?
Just a glycolytic circuit. It's gonna be pal-off press, single arm dumbbell row.
You make it through SFAS without benching 225.
Be able to at least do 225 to even get an X-ray contract, so probably not. I would say you should be able to bench your body weight. I would say that would probably be a good baseline. Be able to at least bench your body weight for 1 rep, yeah.
It's always better to be stronger. If you can be a strong dude, carry weight, move your body over distance, then you're going to have an advantage over someone who is weaker all day long.
Exactly, so that's gonna help you with stabilizing the pistol when you get out. Typically when you're drawing that pistol out. I think that, the SIG's 12 pounds?
SIG P320 is
yeah, I think it's 12 pounds, so it just helps you.
It's like a dumbbell?
Yeah, it helps you drawing out the SIG. Glock's a little lighter, I think like 9 pounds, so. There you go, sir.
How did you train on a team?
I love like setting up team workouts and stuff. So I used to, so we went to Tajikistan, and I used to do a run, swim, lift like 3 times a week.
Like a little mini triathlon?
Like mini triathlon. So they had like the embassy. I would go and do 1 mile repeats, and then I would do like a circuit of like push-ups, sit-ups. I would do like 5 miles of that. And then I would go to the pool, and I would swim like 2,000 to 3,000 meters. And then I would run back to the house, which was like a mile. And then I would go do the big 3. So bench, squat, and deadlift. And then I would like challenge the guys on the team to like do it with me, and then see how they do. So
that's awesome.
I used to love doing stuff like that.
During the week, I would usually just lift. Maybe go for like 1 run on a Wednesday. Do like back then I did like a big upper lower body split. And then pretty much every weekend I was in Colorado in the mountains. So I was either shed hunting in the springtime or I was hunting elk in the fall time. So I didn't run a whole lot while I was on a team, but I damn sure climbed some mountains with a pack on. So that was a lot of my training. And then I was mostly like hypertrophy work, which bit me in the ass, but for a long time I just did a lot of lifts during the week. Something I was actually surprised about in SF is I thought it was going to be a lot more team workouts. Like you guys organized them, but it really depends on your leadership. And the leadership we had after I got to the team, we never really, we did them every once in a while, but it was very rare that we did like a team workout.
I mean, most guys prefer doing it on your own, but I do think that there is like a level of camaraderie that doing team workouts kind of brings. And with that, I think the additional part is guys get lazy, dude. And it's a good indicator like where guys are at with their fitness. Because sometimes we do those team workouts and some guys just wouldn't show up, and that's a big deal. You know, like you put together something like that and you're the last dude, like you're probably gonna get some hate. So I think in that sense, I think it is good to have those type of team workouts. But
I agree. Cool, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. If you made it this far, you're awesome. If you like this style of content, this is something we're trying out, then let me know down in the comments, drop a like, and we'll continue doing it. But thanks for Coach CJ for flying all the way to Arizona. What'd you think of Arizona, dude?
fucking hot, dude.
You're in Texas.
Yeah, but it's not like this kind of hot though. This is like dry hot. This shit like burns your skin hot.
You're wearing a long sleeve shirt though.
Oh yeah, but I had to show out. Smoke Barbecue, guys. Check them out. They're great. Get a little plug in there.
Cool. Appreciate you guys. Go train.